We are doing it live with QTASTIC. I don't know. Hello, everybody. Today is going to be a banger of a live stream. First, we start off with our covered sound check, as always. We are doing it live with QTASTIC. Boom. Alright. Well, today we are going to be going over a chapter idea, Dread from the Depths, by Galanonum. There's also a killer perk idea, Gluttony, from Bloodshade. And then, I guess I should go through the poster killer ideas here post from Entitled Myers. And dot. I have seen this particular post pop up a couple of times, but I haven't actually clicked on it, so I guess now's the time I actually should. How do I want to do this? I could always save the best for last. And give time for people to actually join, things like that. One thing I have noticed is that it's been a couple of days and ain't really nothing else new has actually popped through. It's interesting. They also reopen new add-ons. They reopened the design your own perk and all of this. It's all been reopened. And nobody's really said anything there. I think the forums actually are starting to lose speed. People just aren't feeling as creative anymore, or since it's close to Thanksgiving and things like that, people kind of back down a little bit. That's alright. That is okay. Alright. So, let's go ahead and post your killer ideas here. We'll jump into this. And scroll all the way to the top. I don't know why I'm scrolled to the bottom. The doll. Weapon, holly scissors. Giant old rusty scissor that can cut the human skin. There was an indie game, or indie horror game, about this. They were on a cruise ship. And she just had this huge, gigantic pair of scissors that she'd cut people in half with. Anyway, power. Phasing of fear. Don't eat the vault, break pallets or doors, or chase the survivor for hours. Phasing of fears lets you take shortcuts to easily let you hit or down the survivor. After hitting the survivor, you'll have a cooldown for 8 seconds. What? So you no longer have to vault, break pallets or doors, or chase the survivor for hours. Just that first sentence is very contradictory to everything. That's the only way that survivors can escape killer, is by vaulting or breaking pallets, or vaulting, dropping pallets, and jumping through windows and forcing the killer to break open breakable doors. So what you're trying to do is just make it to where you can just walk in a straight line continuously after a survivor. So, I've actually discussed this particular power with one of my friends that like Dead by Daylight a lot about the ability to phase. When we found out the best way to incorporate a phase through objects and windows and things like that is have the old school you slow down when you're walking through things because, well, it's matter, not air, so you're going to lose a significant amount of speed. And the bigger the thing, the more slowdown. So for instance, let's say hopping a window takes about a second. You can now get through windows like 0.8 seconds by phasing. It's a little bit faster. Pallets take, I'm throwing out just random numbers just to show a comparison of speed increase and decrease. These aren't correct numbers. But let's say breaking a pallet takes 2 seconds. Then you would be able to phase through at 1.5 seconds. Keep in mind that all of these times that I'm giving you is just a flat time because brutal strength and things like that no longer apply. That's also another thing that we talked about adding is if you're going to phase through things, that means things should not be able to be broken by killer. Also, survivor can still stun you. If they drop a pellet right on you, you should still be able to be stunned, or at least phase locked inside of something, and it'll take you longer to actually activate to go through if a pallet is slammed on you. While phase walking or inside of something, you cannot attack, because any type of erroneous movements or anything like that generally, at least phase-wise, pulls you out of phase, or by Dead by Daylight-wise, you're unable to do things while phasing. You have to be out of that particular phase before you attack, or perform any type of action. The only thing that is contrary to that rule would be Wraith, but you still can't attack while invisible with Wraith. So, if you do want to actually bring in some sort of phasing, you're going to have to design it around the actual game. And no, it's not going to be I'm going to walk around at full speed whenever I want. And just club survivors non-stop. There's nothing they can do to escape. Like, that's never gonna fly. The way this is, or how it is, isn't gonna work. You can walk through all objects, but after you hit a survivor, you just have a cooldown of 8 seconds. A cooldown of what? Are you going to play with your weapon or all of that for 8 seconds, or 8 seconds until you can phase again? That needs to be defined. How long does it take you to phase? What kind of phasing are we talking about? Are we talking about like spirit phasing? Are we talking about like pinhead phasing, where he just kind of breaks in half? What are we talking about? These things need to be defined. It needs to have limits. It needs to have a whole system designed around your power. If you're trying to introduce a power, in particular to Dead by Daylight, you have to have a fairly sizable explanation of what your power does. If you don't, then it's just going to be disregarded. They might look at it for like, oh, well, phasing through something, okay. And then they're going to move on. This was not well thought out at all. This is somebody complaining about them having extremely bad pursue skills. They probably tried to play killer, not with a lot of hours or anything like that. Just hopped on, got absolutely destroyed as killer, and they came on here to create an angry post. This, I'm finding, is quite common. If somebody gets into a situation that they do not like, they typically come to the forum and try to design something around it. Stop doing that. Especially, don't make an entire killer idea with a whole bunch of just blarney. Like, stop. Go to somebody else's that already has something like your own post. Find a post your killer ideas here or something like that, or a perk idea or a killer power idea where you can just toss something out there to give other people ideas, but don't make an entire concept. Because what generally happens is, as I'm going to go through this concept, it's going to be more and more of typically you just complaining about how survivors treated you during this one match. And it's going to blow the entire thing out. Pecs. You couldn't even spell perks right. Hello. Thank you for joining me. But Pecs person was so distraught and so much in a hurry to write this post that they didn't even spell perks right. This is how things become ridiculous. And people that are crow fact, this is not a crow. And people are drawing inspiration and things from posts like this that have backstories and all of this other information. You have lots of people that come in and they're like, okay, well, this is sort of kind of like a format. It looks all nice and flushed out, and I like the idea. And since they like the idea, they kind of have still this, put something down. They leave this half flushed out idea here and things like that. And then the next couple of posts end up being just dreadful because the thing that they went off was not a very good example. There's a couple of upvoted ones that are absolutely just terrible and need to be pulled from the forum, but they have a lot of upvotes, so they're not going to go anywhere. But that's how it be. Pecs. Benevolent. They even put levels. In the beginning of the match, all windows, pallets, and doors are blocked from the entity for 46 seconds. I mean, that's gonna suck for the first person that you get in the chase from or with. They're not gonna be able to do anything, but by your killer's design, they can't really effectively use them anyway. So why would you have the perk that blocks windows, pallets, and doors? Doors survivors can't even interact with, but okay. Or when you say blocked from the entity, it means that, what, the entity can't do anything with them? Because then that's a negative perk if a survivor can just keep using the same window for 46 seconds. Either way, both of them are kind of ridiculous compared to this. Unless this person is doing the classic example of, I want to create just this backwash killer so I can grab his perks if they're implemented and throw them on another killer that I actually play. You do run into that. Hey, I have no viruses. And yeah, if your killer can phase through windows, pallets, and doors and all of that, why would you need to block them? So, I that don't make sense. It has an interesting idea because like corrupt intervention exists. This could possibly work out. I mean, it's definitely gonna have to be tweaked, but eh, it's kind of a meh. After picking up a survivor, your surroundings have high tense chills. If a survivor is blocking your way, the entity will hit the survivor. If you have a hex totem, they will be insta down. Again, this is just another person that had a terrible time with killer that's coming to complain and make a killer to basically counter everything. This person must have gotten flashlighted, must have gotten body blocked, and all of that, and must have dropped a lot of survivors in this one match. This is all this is this person complaining about one match that they had and coming to create perks to get rid of that. If a survivor is blocking your way, walk around the survivor or just simply slap the survivor. Run perks that you know that will give you more time when you hit a survivor when you're carrying them. I forgot the name of the perk. Mad Grit is not the name of the perk, I don't think. But that's the only perk that comes to mind. There's already a perk designed around this, and a survivor should not be insta down for being altruistic. That's just ridiculous. If you want super downs like that, run Starstruck. Starstruck does essentially this. And then there's also perks like the one I just explained. If you having no no hit cooldown, no missed hit cooldown. So you can just swing and swing and swing and swing and swing until you eventually hit them if they're body blocking you. Illusions. After survivors rescued from the second hook, they will have illusions of killer, seeing them coming at their way. But turns out it's the killer, it's just your imagination. For 30 seconds. Doctor. It's the only thing I'm going to say there is doctor. You've literally pulled a part of a power of another killer and then thrown that into another killer's perks. So this leads me to believe, just using basic detective slash psychological skills, is that this Red Hex guy was playing his doctor. He was thinking he was having a good time. He was a bad guy, going around slapping survivors. Survivors looped him for hours. Vaulted, dropped pallets in front of him, made him go through doors like they were supposed to do. And not only were they doing that, they were doing that from the beginning of game. He finally downed that one survivor that he's been chasing all game, and he felt superior, and he was shaking his head and all of that. And one survivor body blocked him, and he went after that, trying to get hits and all of that, and ended up dropping that survivor. He finally got a second hook, or two hooks on the same person, finally. And that guy eventually escaped out of the door through helps of his friends. At the end, probably was face camping, because it's the second hook, and he wanted to just get something to save his pride. Somebody probably either borrowed time or something like that to get him out, and used the old trickeroonies to get that person out. resulting in a four-piece escape. This particular person still likes the premise of Doctor, but he only likes the illusion side of that, not necessarily the madness, so he wanted to pull what he liked about Doctor and try all of that on a new killer. And that's the end of my story. How did I come up with this story? Because of context clues. This was obviously wrote in distraught. This is obviously wrote out of hate and malice towards the game that he had. Where'd I pull Doctor from this post right here? With the illusions and all of that. There's only one killer that has illusions, and it makes no sense for his particular killer to make illusions and things appear. Because this killer is a doll that holds scissors. And he didn't even try to make the killer like, you know, the Resident Evil one that turns and basically makes you play hide and seek and makes you have to find the correct doll. He didn't go that way. He went towards Doctor, which is how I figured out that he essentially was playing Doctor. What happened to this poor guy? It was obviously he was abused and ran for a long amount of chases because of his power. No need to vault, break pallets or doors, or this, or chase Survivor for hours. This part right here isn't necessary. This is almost, well, I mean, it is a Freudian slip. That's how I know that, that's how you can figure out that he was ran a lot. Like they ran him ragged. Is chase the Survivor for hours. So that sets up a motive for this entire thing. Is he had a bad killer run. Could be new. Well, I mean, we know he's newer. I don't know if it was his first game, but he's obviously newer. He doesn't have a lot of hours. Maybe a couple hundred. Then the blocking of everything from the start, what means he wants to essentially guarantee his first down. So if he does run into that person that tries to loop the absolute crap out of him, or have any type of issues like that, he wants to essentially be able to just tunnel them very easily, get a very easy first down. Yeah, all of this is just another sad story of Red Hex getting abused as killer and then wanting to make perks to counteract what he experienced. Yeah. There ain't gonna be any comments because it says post your killer ideas here. Now, when it comes to half-baked things like this, where there's no type of detail or anything like that, I don't mind seeing those on post your killer ideas here post. You shouldn't try to make anything big out of it. It's just kind of a rough draft that you throw out, or a pitch that you throw out to the general public. And if they like it, then you can go ahead and make something big out of it. However, when you make a post like this, you're in essence making people post very short, very short, unthought out, or very well implemented ideas. You're just gonna get essentially a cesspool of just ideas that somebody can pull from. So it's kind of like a think tank of ideas. It's not a bad thing, but if somebody wants to actually post an entire killer concept here, it's just not gonna work. Which I think somebody did repost theirs. But that's The Doll by Red Hex. Very meh. Like this. He made this about 2 months ago. What do y'all think? There's a lot of high reading things here. Things seem to be worked out, etc., etc. But why not just update your original concept and then let it, post itself again, as opposed to throw it into this particular form? Because here, I don't want to read this long drawn out thing like this because it's in the wrong spot. If it was its own standalone post, I would go over it. But since it's not, I'm just gonna kind of drop through, say some things, and then continue on. Which I'm pretty sure I did something like this. It wasn't the Spriggan, but I think it was something else. Basically communes with nature. If survivors injured, their aura is revealed. Resting place. It looks like you can place saplings and then teleport the trees. Can only have 3 at a time. Survivor cleanse totem. They become injured and have their auras revealed. Obvious problems. Heightened senses. When carrying a survivor, all survivor auras 35 meters are revealed. Obvious problems. Starstruck, barbecue and chili. Exiting gate progress and healing progress regress at 12.5%. How do you regress healing progress? Oh, you stopped healing. Oh, you're gonna start being injured again. What? Exit gate progress. Okay. It'll stop people from 99%ing, and yes, that is kind of a problem. I can see that. Not at whatever 12.5% rate is, because there's no actual standard rate, so you're going to have to actually make up a rate that it regresses at. Because if you're saying it's going to regress at 12.5% a second, that's ridiculous. So you have to set the standard here. Survivor, blah blah blah. When you get chased by killer, gain haste bonus. Everything is increased when you get hit. You get a faster speed boost. But when you're not in chase, you move slower. This is just a very, very, very long and extended sprint burst. Now it's a very long and extended overwhelm. And you essentially put the two together and then just slapped it all together. Whichever way you want to run that, and then add it volt speed. So this is definitely, one, gonna have to be shortened, and then it's gonna have to be changed because there's other perks that affect these particular things. Survivalist. Let's see. Survivalist. Stun effects are 25% more effective. I don't believe this person actually looked up how long killers are stunned in particular situations. I'm pretty sure they just threw a number out. But I mean, I guess behavior and all of that's gonna have to throw it in. This is just kind of an idea. Mutual disadvantage when being picked up by killer. All hooks within 20 meters break. So the problem you have with this is if all hooks within 20 meters break, then it's essentially impossible for the killer to get a hook unless they are like mid-map and they have a lot of hooks that they can go towards. I would definitely not bring something that takes out all hooks. Now, the closest hook breaking, you could have some sort of negotiation there. But all hooks within 20 meters breaking, that's not very good, and it's also not very useful. Because depending on where you go down, it could essentially not hit any hook and not do a or not make any type of use. And then it has a 120-second cooldown. So I mean, it's kind of weird that its cooldown is so incredibly high. Because what's going to happen is the killer's going to slap you down, pick you up, notice that all the hooks in the general area are gone, and if they can't make it to a hook, they're just going to leave you there to bleed out and go about their life. Or, depending on where they pick you up, they're going to pick you up, one hook's going to go, they're not even going to notice that the hook's broken, and they're just going to take you to another hook. Because at 20 meters, it's very awkward that in most cases this perk's going to be actually useless. But the occasional time you die right between two hooks and you do get both of them, you're essentially leaving the killer unable to get to another hook. The hooks are going to break, which it doesn't say how long, but it's going to have to be at least 10 seconds minimum for this to have any type of effect. And yeah, killer's just gonna drop you, or if you break out, they're just going to re-slap you down, which takes only a couple of seconds. Because if I know that all the hooks around me are gonna break and I can't get near anything, I'm just gonna walk you over to a corner of the map, turn you towards wall, and about the time you break out and I get on stunned, you're not going to be able to go anywhere. And I'm just going to walk back over and slap you down. By that time, the 10 seconds will be gone, the hooks will be back, and then I'll just continue to hook you as planned. You wasted a good 25 seconds of my time, congratulations, but I'm probably going to make sure you either go to phase 2 or something like that, so I don't have to deal with your shenanigans anymore. So that's the type of situation where I'd probably camp a survivor to make it to where I only have to hook them twice. And with Ghostface, a stealth ability, I can just peek out around the corner and immediately, bam, get a one hit down on anybody that tries to save you. Using Ghostface's one hit down method, if I'm leaning out and the survivor's running over and they immediately get exposed, most will turn around and run a different way. There are some that are still dumb enough to keep running towards the hook, and if I'm close enough, I can just straight up down them before he even gets unhooked. Which leads to a snowball effect, but that be things. So that's a fast rundown of that. This guy wants a liquor from Resident Evil. Somebody's already made a concept. Pennywise. Somebody's already made a concept. Never mind. We just gonna keep moving on. The seamstress. What do you have? You have a huge paragraph of things. Power, needlework. Have I done this? I'll run it through quickly. I've seen one that's like this, if I haven't done this particular person. Active ability. Will have the seamstress take out one of her blank rag dolls. She will stitch up a creation of a chosen survivor. And how are you supposed to choose survivors? Is it just going to be a random one? Do you need to hit the survivor to get some of their DNA like a voodoo doll? This needs to be, I mean, is it just an obvious thing? It needs to be defined better. The seamstress will stitch herself up and take the survivor's presence. So now it's a mimic. She becomes undistinguishable from a regular survivor. That, my friend, shouldn't be true. She's a seamstress. She deals in sewing up and things like that, and repairs and needlework. You got it right. She deals in needlework. If you're going to become the presence of another survivor, there should be some obvious differences. Like, I mean, the survivor is going to be stitched up. Other survivors should be able to look at you and be like, you ain't right, and should be able to run. Just like with Wraith and things like that, he's not completely invisible. He's just hard to see. You shouldn't be completely indistinguishable. You should just be hard to distinguish. There's differences in those words. She can do all other survivor tasks besides unhooking. She will not advance generators or distill totems, but can mimic working on them. Why would you waste time? Why would you waste time faking tasks? This is not Among Us. You can't be voted out. Yeah, I'm gonna get on this gen. I'm gonna act like I'm working on it and doing things like that. What? Press the active ability while in needlework to return her ragdoll. Return her to ragdoll form after a 2-second delay. She can return to this form while doing tasks. The ragdoll will slowly shed off her survival form, the stitches falling apart. Indistinguishable, by the way, but they're stitches. Falling apart as she sheds off the survivor's skin like a snake. And then you're gonna, like, oh boy. I like what you're trying to do, but you're not implementing it very good. One, I don't know why it has to be any type of stitch when you could have just made a mimic killer and things would have just been a lot faster. Just boom, boom, boom. I have mimic. Mimic can transform into indistinguishable survivor. That are what mimics are known for, except for they generally have one flaw. Like blood on their shirt, their eyes are red, or something like that. Generally have one flaw to tell them apart. Maybe they're aggressive, you know, they breathe, or they hunger a lot, or they smile, or something. There's going to be some sort of feature that survivors can distinguish a regular survivor versus mimic. It's going to have to be incorporated. The returning, this is the same. It's essentially the same as a Wraith. If you're trying to make like another Wraith, but you can hide in plain sight, okay. However, if you want it to be like an alternative killer for Wraith, you need to look up Wraith's stats and try to match those as close as possible. Try to make it flow like his invisibility. Because, I mean, I could see this being very, 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 very close to an alternative for Wraith. Throw him in, the seamstress, Instead of becoming invisible, you become one of the survivors with, a pseudo obvious tell. So people know that, yeah, you're not right. And they can start to run away. Then, after the 2 second delay, after you shedding skin and all of that, chase begins. I could see this. With a little bit more tweaking and a little bit more flushing out, this could be an alternative killer for Wraith. And I'd be more than happy to do an actual full video on it. However, as it sits now, I really can't push that. Secondary ability, Closet Tour. Can enter any locker on the map as survivor and can teleport to any other locker. 30-second cooldown. Closet Tour also passively stitches up ragdolls around the map randomly. Some may take the shape of ragdoll or other survivors, but they will aimlessly walk forward until unstitching and falling apart. Much like Doctor's Tier 3 visions, but more animated and random all over the map. Interesting. I mean, there's AI, albeit bad AI, but there are AI in the game, like zombies and things like that. It wouldn't be too weird to try to go a pseudo-nemesis way and have minions and all that with decent AI walk towards survivors and things like that to kind of freak them out. Obviously aren't going to do any damage unless you have like an add-on or something, which will probably only apply the deep wound effect, but not actually provide any damage if they do get hit one time. But, I mean, AI's there. You can use it. Closet teleportation. There are a lot of lockers in the map. So that teleportation ability would be kind of filthy. I don't know why you would limit yourself at only a 30-second cooldown, though. But, I mean, I guess you'd assume that if you teleport somewhere, you know there's a survivor there. And you're going to initiate chase anyway. Needs to be defined, besides cooldown, on how everything works, but it's a good premise to start on. Like a thread through a needle. When the killer kicks a generator, any survivor will be screamed and location marked. I've gone over this particular perk so many different times in so many different scenarios. Watch any other live stream and I've probably went over this. I'm not even going, from now on, I'm just gonna throw these out. You know my opinion on it if you've watched any of the live streams. I'm not gonna go through that again. Hello, Galanunum. Oh boy. Sewn shut. Down survivors will cause the entity to close off the closest generator to where the survivor were down 45 seconds. Multiple generators can be closed by the entity. Destroying the totem will deactivate this perk. So if you get multiple downs, you just keep stacking. Possibly. You're treading real close on the line there with like Ghostface's abilities and corrupt intervention and things like that. I would it does only say closest generator. I can't think of all Dead by Daylight perks, but if there's nothing like this already implemented into the game, because this is an older post, then I could see somebody going off on this and adding it into, well, not adding it into the game, but adding it to PTB or something like that, because it's going to need a lot of balancing. As I commonly say, it can't be balanced by words, it has to be balanced by gameplay. If there's nothing else like this, this would be a nice starter perk. But if there are things like that, then no. Because you still have like Jolt and things like that. When you down a survivor, all gens within X area pop and regress. And things like that. Plus Ruin. High grade stitching here. Being blinded will blind all survivors in 16 meters as well as the killer. Being stunned will give killer haste 3 seconds. Well, that's not particularly fair. He went for pseudo fair, but would probably never happen. If the killer's blind, the survivors are blind. Okay, everybody's blind and can't really tell where they're going. It's a decent start. Probably won't ever happen, because there's an ability of that. Also, you need to define... Well, the killer needs to be blinded longer than the survivor. So survivors can be blinded, but they need to be out of the unblinded before the killer does, to get value out of their blind. Because if not, this might as well just be Lightborn and everybody just continue to play. It'll make the game a lot faster just to be Lightborn. But if you want to have like a backlash effect, survivor needs to be unblinded before killer. Makes the perk usable, makes the perk more balanced. The being stunned by a pallet giving the killer haste, you're essentially giving them a bloodlust here for being stunned by a pallet. There are other perks, other abilities, other killers that deal with pallets very quickly. This haste really isn't necessary. Even with a cooldown, doesn't necessarily make this whole thing balanced. It needs to be revisited. I like the idea of the seamstress and things like that, but if this was ever revisited as a concept, things could be improved. What time? We're looking at 48. Alright, Galenonum, I think I am going to go over your chapter idea, Dread from the Depths. And then after that, I think I might end stream there. Something tells me this might take a while. Let's start from the bottom. Actually, I'm gonna read this word for word, and then I'm gonna go through and incorporate all of this afterwards. So for anybody that is tuning into this, besides the creator himself, I'm gonna go through this thing for thing and give my usual advice, go over everything. Then here, which I read yesterday, he adds in a lot more things to clarify some meanings and things like that. He had to send it through a mod to get it all approved and everything, so he just added it to the comments section instead of having to approve it through the mod again. I know what it says, but I'm gonna go over everything like normal, and then go after reading all of this, go down, and then read the rest, and then come back through. If that makes sense. Actually, I might just read it all, then go down to the comments, read that all, and then revisit everything. So I got time. So the chapter idea is dread from the depths. The killer is a drowner. It's from Darkest Dungeons. The killer would look like a fish humanoid. He would have fish scales all over his body. Here are the monsters from Witcher 3 and Darkest Dungeon to help in visualization. I think Minecraft had drowners in a mod too. So that's Witcher, that's Darkest Dungeon. I'll recognize Darkest Dungeon from anywhere. They're essentially what, mermen? I guess is a way you could spin that, except different. Killer's names: Thomas Clark. If anybody wants to read the killer's lore, you can go ahead and pause now. Give you a second, and then we moving on. His weapon is a trident, and his ability is ambush from the deep. You possess the ability to trap generators, chests, and lockers. When the survivor starts repairing the trap generator or gets out of a trap locker or starts searching trap chests, the trap activates. After activation, tentacles are summoned which holds the survivors. The survivor is forced to break free from the tentacles, or they struggle to break free for 8 seconds of holding the left mouse button and say interactive button for 4 seconds if another survivor would try to break you free. The trap notifies the killer. The traps don't hurt survivors. Interesting. The traps can't be destroyed or be seen by survivors. The traps don't disappear after time. The traps are only activated when survivors in killer's terror radius. To trap object, you have to approach it closely and press the secondary power button. That's what we like to see. Generator traps and chests and lockers are counted separately. You can always put up the 4 traps in lockers and chests. So you can essentially place 12 traps. If they're all counted separately, that's 4 generators, 4 chests, 4 lockers. Generator traps are reduced when survivors fully repair generators. So the more generators, less traps. Gotcha. When, I'm going to say 4 generators are left, you can place 3 traps. 2 generators are left, 2 traps. 1 generator left, 1 trap. It almost goes off the old hatch system. Kind of funny. When a survivor fully repairs a generator, maximum number of traps are reduced, but instead of instantly losing your oldest placed trap, your oldest trap will disappear after 30 seconds. Time of tentacle hold of generator traps, only generator traps, is also reduced with a lower number of survivors. 4 survivors, full 8 seconds, 3 survivors 7, 2 survivors 6, 1 survivor 5. Power, Curse of Eldritch, allows you to liquefy your form. Your liquefied form allows you to pass through windows and pallets. This is wild. I literally, first person I went over was a phaser, and I said that it needed to be incorporated different, and essentially this is what you have here. It's an incorporation of the phaser, but done better. This is actually very funny to me. That's good. I like it. So, if anybody wants an example of that phaser idea, that person that I went over, who I said needed to incorporate their idea better and further explain how things are going to work, this is probably what you're going to be looking at. Maybe a little bit more. I haven't read through it though, but something around here is where either your first draft or last draft, if it's just that dang good, should look like. As opposed to the first one where the person's just like, yep, you can walk through things. This is what you're going to be looking for. Something like this. So, anybody ever asks, well, what do you mean by feather define and things like that? Go look at that post, and then go look at this post. If I had dual screens, I'd pull them both up side by side. But I'm too lazy to go back and make another window. So there you go. Actually funny. Curse of Eldritch Gods allow you to liquefy your form. Your liquefied form allows you to pass through windows and pallets. After passing through a window or pallet, soak them with your fluids. In disgust, probably. Survivors that vault through the soaked pallet or window scream, informing the killer of their location. Yeah. Yeah. Under disgust, they probably are screaming from nausea or horror, sometimes shame depending on the fluid, revulsion, phobic, definitely. Soaked pallets are destroyed after the vault. So after the survivor vaults, the pallets, they are destroyed. Gotcha. Soaked windows are blocked after vault for 16 seconds. God dang. During Curse of Eldritch, you move at 5.2 movement speed. You can't be blinded. Leaving from Cruise of Eldritch form makes you fatigued for 3 seconds. Legion has 4, but his power injures the survivor, so I wanted to shorten it in this case. I could see where you want to shorten it from 4 to 3 seconds because Legion does damage. But I mean, that blocking of window from a vault for 16 seconds is kind of disgusting. The 5.2 move speed, the windows being blocked off, the soak pallets, things like that. I mean, I know Legion can break pallets as they go over them, but making a survivor break a god pallet, because you know how they like to run back and forth on them if you don't break them. Oof. Hmm. 3 seconds or 4 seconds. I think that's one of those that has to be balanced through PTB. Definitely through public test beta. The devs will have to determine that. Very interesting though. Perks. Piranha Instinct. After hitting a survivor with basic attack, you can see their aura for 7 seconds. I'll go back all of this the second through and give opinions. Right now, I'm just going over the concept. Ghost shit. You create one fake generator. We are going into hollow ground, sir. The generator appears normal to survivors and can be repaired. After repairing the generator, the survivors scream and the generators disappear. I'm gonna keep reading. This fake generator, when done, doesn't count in the number of generators that were repaired. After disappearing, this generator grants a 25%. Wait. Oh, it goes down because it's okay. Yeah, 25% progress to the generator with the most progress on the map. If there isn't a generator with any progress, then the bonus is lost. I should pick a random one. Note, the fake generator grants survivors points for repair and all other toolboxes. Survivor perks and killer perks work on it. So essentially, Ruin will actually, alright. So essentially, Ruin will actually work on this fake generator and things like pop and everything else. And you can fake out survivors to pressure this one generator, because if you keep patrolling the general area and there's a survivor that's just dedicated to it, you can fake them out and make them waste a lot of points. And then when they complete it, it all just poops in front of them. And they're probably going to rage quit right afterwards, but things happen. Is that Veruca toxin or Varrock toxin? I think it's Veruca toxin. After hooking 4 different survivors, let's just say V-toxin activates. If you injure survivor with your basic attack, you will put him additionally in a deep wound state. After hitting a survivor with V-toxin, this ability is disabled for 30 seconds. I'll come back to it later. I'll think about that. Oh, then we have a survival. It is a chapter concept, so yeah, makes sense. For those of you that want to read the lore, go ahead and pause. Excuse me. And we'll move on. Perks. Playing with shark jaws. When you gain the exposed status effect, you can see the aura of the killer for 7 seconds. When you are under an exposed status effect, the killer can't reveal your aura. Why you gotta take away my starstruck value? And then Challenge Seeker. You increase the trigger chances of skill checks by 100%. Hitting a good and great skill check, gain additional 10% blood points to normal skill check blood point bonus. It's generally 25%, but 10% is fine. This is just kind of a hard mode style perk, or if you really just want blood points, you would run this. But yeah, anywhere you can increase this to 25% and it'd be absolutely fine. Breathing training. Breathing noises are reduced by 100%. Okay, just breathing though. Grunts of pain reduced by 50%. And always eager to hear about your opinions about it, and I will be happy to hear your feedback, especially I'm curious to hear your opinion, QTASTIC. Now I'm going to go down and read this, and then we're going to go over the entire concept again, and I'm going to give some opinions. Keep in mind that opinions are based just off the top of my head and the little bit of time that I've had to think here. I didn't pre-game or pre-read anything, except for a little bit of this just to see what it was, but once I noticed that it was a rendition of what was up, well, I guess it was an added text to what was up there, I stopped reading. So I want to mention something, but I don't want to make the moderator check my post after editing again, which I stated earlier. So he'd type everything here. He apologizes for grammar mistakes, things like that, which, I mean, that's no big deal. I know you've seen some of the concepts that I went over that I couldn't make heads or tail from anything. Can't attack during Curse of Eldritch. That's one thing that I was going to ask about. So you cannot attack during that particular phase. And you don't vault the windows or pallets, you just pass through them. Which I kind of just assumed because I went over that new phase killer. The survivor who will vault the soaked pallet will break it after his vault. That was actually explained very well. So you won't be blocking windows as the killer. Because I mean, you used the term vault, not climb. It said after vaulted or after vault. Which I guess if you're playing Legion, I guess that could be a confusion. So I'm glad you did explain this. But I always considered killers, I use the terminology climb, even though they are technically vaulting over pallets. I just never put two and two together till now. So you won't be blocking windows as the killer, aka bamboozle, I think is what it's called. Same goes with pallets. The soaked pallets will be destroyed after survivor vaults. It kind of reminds me of a slime. But I digress. This ability has 30-second cooldown. 30-second cooldown, huh? 30-second cooldown. So what you're saying is, if it comes down to kill shack, I have to decide whether or not I want the window to be blocked or I want the pallet to be destroyed if both are essentially ready. Interesting. I mean, it makes sense because survivors, it has to be balanced so survivors can still maneuver. Interesting. Windows and pallets that were soaked from this ability come back to normal after 30 seconds. And you still, as soon as one dries up, you have to either re-wet it or re-soak it. And you still can't have two of the same thing. So even if you run them for 30 seconds, you still can't get a double whammy. You can only get a single. That takes things to a whole new extreme. He's thinking about giving 4 seconds of fatigue, but staying with 3 since you can't damage survivors. I mean, if you can only get one thing at a time, unless I'm understanding this wrong, I wouldn't add any fatigue at all, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to be a effect that you could apply essentially everywhere you go, like the plague. And then after 30 seconds now, reading this, it would just dry up. But no, if it's like I'm thinking it is now, and you can really only get one thing per 30 seconds, then I wouldn't add fatigue at all. There really isn't any point. But I'll go back over this again when I read more up. The fact that the killer can't be blinded during the power is possible overkill, but I added it for the reason that the water reflects light. Fair enough. So I won't defend it from receiving suggestions. A similar thing is with screaming after vaulting the soaked windows and pallets, as well as screaming after disappearing. The ghost generator screams are an accentuation of the fear of survivors. Okay. Another thing, the trap hold time when reduced 7 and 6 seconds is also cut in half when your teammate helps you break free. So like the trapper's traps. Gotcha. So it would take 3.5 seconds and 3 seconds if the drowner doesn't have a tear radius. Then his traps won't be activated. That's brutal. That's brutal. If this drowner don't have tear radius, his traps won't be activated. Oh, that's brutal. Oh no. Oh no. That's so brutal. All right. This. Oh man, you know how many perks that you've just completely knocked out of the running for this killer? That's brutal. As always, I forget to mention some things in my post, then I have to edit. Love Darkest Dungeon art style. I do too. Darkest Dungeon art style. Mwah. Beautiful. Bamboozle felt the disturbance in the force. Yeah, Bamboozle started to sweat a little bit. Fish poison. Ah, is that what I was gonna say Varacticillin? No, the V poison is. It's fish poison. Poison found in fish. That's great attention to detail. But I don't remember what kind of fish have that poison. Um, I couldn't tell you either. I'm gonna assume that it's like a blowfish or something like that. Don't know. Autodidact would be a nice combo with Challenge Seeker. True. Ah, yeah, I didn't mention length of the ability. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. But I don't think a length technically has to be defined. Because, I mean, he is kind of a drown. You could essentially have that ability just active at all times, and I don't think it would be that much of a drag, to be honest with you. But, I'll go over that in a second. Yeah, you killed Tinker. Absolutely killed Tinker. And better. I don't know if it necessarily has to be changed to a specific number of meters, but yeah, it absolutely just crushes a couple of perks that are decent by nature. And it's just like, man, you can no longer use these. Kind of, ooh, I like it, but it's brutal. But I mean, you can still use meta perks, Ruin. You can throw Haunted Ground out there and Hex Undying if you want. You can even still use Devour Hope and things like that, so it's aight. Weapon, Trident. That's probably gonna be a very disgusting Mori. It's gonna be so good. So, special ability is the ability to trap things. And then the power is the Curse of the Eldritch, which lets you essentially, I want to say gloop, but soak things as you're using them. Gotcha. Gotcha. Hmm. I mean, to be fair, you could essentially remove the movement speed buff and the fatigue timer, and you can make this just a passive. It's gonna make gameplay slightly harder. Or I guess you could just leave it on a button too, so where you can activate it whenever you want. But this would be a very nice passive to have. Just the first thing that you pass through becomes like that. Which, I mean, if you leave it automatically in passive, you know, you're just gonna have to keep in mind what you want to pass through versus, you know, what you want to vault or destroy, things like that. It's not that big of a deal when you're running killer to break pallets that you don't want to affect or infect, and then pass through the ones that you that you actually want to. Like god pallets, you don't want to stop and break or you do want to stop and break a god pallet unless the survivor is hanging around it and running it. Because if you can, like, because you have to pass through it to soak it. So you can't even soak it. Nah, you'd still want to break god pallets as soon as they're dropped. I don't know. That's a very big toss up. Because if you soak through a god pallet, you only have 30 seconds. That survivor that's running could possibly loop back around, but I don't think they would make it all the way back to the end of a god pallet for another vault. And if they do, the god pallet's just going to break and you're going to continue to hit them anyway. So it actually doesn't make any type of sense just to soak a god pallet unless you're in chase and you really need that down. Then you would soak through it just to be able to continue along and get that extra hit. But there aren't a lot of cases to where you'd want to do that unless it's in game. Or you just have a toxic survivor stream, you can make one of them break one. So yeah, you would probably always just regularly break god pallets. And then ones that are part of loops and all of that, that really aren't that important, you would soak through, just so when they end their loop and let's see, the pallet's not broken on drop, it's only broken on vaulting. I've gotten myself stuck in a thought loop. This definitely, I wouldn't include this as a main power because its usability is starting to get harder and harder the more that I use it, or the more that I think about it. I would have this be a just a passive. You can call it a secondary power or whatnot, but I'd definitely just make it a passive. It's the only time you get usability is if you ignore a particular pallet and then soak through. But the pallet don't break unless another survivor or that particular survivor vaults it again. But if you're soaking through it, you are essentially blocking the other side of the pallet and forcing the survivor to run away anyway. So unless there's multiple survivors messing around, you're essentially never going to get any value from it. Because once they know your actual killer, if somebody drops Shack Pallet and you soak through Shack Pallet to try to sort of force them away, they're just going to run back through and hop window and use the rest of that window loop, and then they're going to leave. And if you're still in chase 30 seconds later or something like that, then that pallet's gonna dry up, and now they can just run back over and reuse that pallet again sometime in the future and rerun that entire loop if you don't break it. So it's a very good passive to have if you're in the middle of something, but it's not necessarily strong enough to what I'd call it a power. Potentially add something in the where you can soak pallets like Plague does, where you can just walk by and just spray pallets down or something, and make it to where when it's thrown, maybe it does something or it breaks quicker for you. You know, if you soak a pallet, they immediately slam it down. The pallet slams down half broken, and you get a reduced time to break the pallet or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing out random suggestions. You don't have to listen to me. I'm crazy. But the usability has me thinking on this particular power. I mean, the movement speed is nice and but imagine dropping the movement speed bonus and being able to soak things whenever you want and having different effects based off of them. I don't know. Let's see. It's an interesting idea. I like it. It's less similar to Legion with movement speed and fatigue. I don't know. I don't know. There's just a lot of ways that you can tweak this to actually make it absolutely positively amazing. But yeah, that's the one thing that I'm just worried about is the usability of it, and for it to be its main power, and you have to literally block the palette that you want them to go across. Just creates a couple of issues. I mean, you could always make the special ability a power, and then the power the special ability. Because, I mean, trapping... Was this through the trap? Generators, chests, and lockers. That's what it was. When a survivor gets out of the trap locker, before or as they start searching a chest, and as soon as they start repairing a trap generator, tentacles are summoned, which holds the survivor. Trap notifies killer. Traps don't hurt survivors. Traps can be destroyed or can't be destroyed or be seen by survivors. Traps don't disappear after time. The only problem that I see with this is if you're not running Spine Child, you're screwed. Survivors need some sort of way to be able to counteract this ability. I would make it the where at least the bare minimum flashlights can essentially, let's just say the flashlights are super hot, and as the flashlights go over things, they're burning the water off of them or something like that. But flashlight burning traps to deactivate them, and lockers and things like that. I think that should be some sort of incorporation. Generally, you'll want something else different, like you'll have to crouch in front of it to crouch in front of a generator and then spend like 10 seconds wiping it off or something, so you don't get trapped. So generally, you'll want to be able to do something, or you know, opening up an item chest and getting a rag or something crazy, and then walking over and being able to clean something up. There has to be some way for survivors to counteract it. Like trapper traps, they can be disabled spirit. They can hear the sound that she makes. Huntress's hatchets, they can just hide behind something. Well, that's all range attacks. To be able to hide behind something. The new artist, you can flashlight burn her crows. It just needs some sort of counter to it to where survivors can work with it and not have to take that risk. Because they activate as soon as you get into their terror radius. That's it's almost unavoidable if you ain't running spine chill, and very careful while you're running spine chill. And if you're running things like distressing, which increases your terror radius and things like that I run on my doctor build, you can essentially trap a survivor for quite the time. I mean, they have 8 seconds of being stuck there, and you're alerted to them, notified of where they're at and things like that. So I'm alright with the can't be seen by survivors, but I think they should be able to be either, you know, flashlight burn for a quick deactivation. Maybe toolbox for like 10 seconds. 1, it wastes their toolbox charges. 2, I mean, it's a toolbox. You should have rags and things like that inside of it. Possibly make flashlight and toolboxes. So the give and take is you're losing a potentially good trap. However, you're making them lose, you know, 10 charges of their toolbox, which could be put towards that generator. Or towards a generator. And then do it something like that, just to give it some sort of better balance. And then, you know, anytime they're not using their flashlights on you is good times. But I mean, if you're making the secondary ability, or the power, a passive, then you can't be flashlight stunned anyway. So there's also that. If somebody brings a flashlight and they run into you, they no longer can use their flashlight. So that could potentially create a problem as well. And one thing else I wanted to ask is, during the actual power, where you're phasing through things and like that, can you do that while carrying a survivor? Like, if I got a survivor on my shoulder, can I phase through a pallet that's in the way or something that a survivor has dropped in front of me and wet that while continuing to carry a survivor, and then throw them on a hook? Generally, the answer is going to be no, but it's an interesting concept to think of. Boom, 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 boom. Can show? Question mark. I don't know what can show is. Also, it looks as though I need to give me a second. Bum, 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 bum. Boom. There we go. Thanks for coming. Also, I mean, I could just... Can I like my own video? I can like my own video. I'm a fool. Go ahead and change this. I'll give you time to message, talk back, do what you need to do. And I'll just edit this while I head on through. Honestly, since I didn't go over much, I might just give you your own post. Bam, bam. I have no problem with this, since yours is the most time that I spent on everything. So there you go. And we're going to say drowner. Slash don't do this to me. There we go. Creation forum. Drowner slash survivor. Submitted by you. Latest. Bada bing, bada boom. I'm already live. Kind of made me panic for a second. Creation review. I'll even go through and let's add some tags. Dead by daylight. That court case just got done, so I'm actually going to add in the word, that word, just because that court case has, whatchamacallit, finished. I guess it'd be adjourned recently. Maybe be able to pull some people. At least get some searches. That was done today. This is not entertainment, it is gaming. The game is Dead by Daylight. Allow all comments. Why would I never allow all comments? Why is that even... And there we go. All yours. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time, because if you didn't post this, I would have nothing to really go over. Alright. So what do we do so far? So this could technically be the power instead of the special ability. I think that's the only thing I really had to say about it is, it just needs to be able to be countered by something. Yeah. Everything else has been very well thought out. There aren't really any questions or anything like that. I'm not gonna harp about, you know, like, well, how long does it take to deploy a trap? How long do I have to hold the button or anything like that? I mean, it's a trap. It's gonna be roundabouts the same time as it takes to trap or the trap. Very, very quickly. Four traps. You can trap 4 different generators, 4 different chests, and 4 different lockers. This is something I would probably take a look at. Since all traps are separate, And as things stand now, survivors can't detect traps and things like that. I think generator traps should be reduced. So I mean, they have to do 5 generators, but there's technically 7 total, and you can trap more than half of them from the start. Mm, Actually, hang on. How did I not notice this before? Yeah. Generator traps and chest and locker traps are counted separately. Oh, okay. That's a misunderstanding. So you separated them. Lockers and chests have a total of 4. Generators are by this. Gotcha. So you get 3, 2, and 1 per generators. Um, I mean, the 1 for 1 is kind of an obvious thing, so that's perfect. 2 for 2 or 2 for 3. You're getting down to a 3 gen situation, being able to place 2 traps. That's a lot of power. Would that necessarily be balanced? Hmm. Or you have 2 gens left, which is essentially 4, but a 3 gen situation. Now, 3 gen situation, we would only have 1 because it's 1 generator left. It's left versus how many there actually up. So 1 trap in between a 3 gen situation. No, it's balanced. Yeah, you've thought about this a lot. I mean, you said you've worked on it for a while. Yeah, 3 traps for 5 generators. 2 traps for 2 generators, 1 for 1. And it's all left to repair, not necessarily just on the map. So, yeah. Because you're essentially looking at 7 and 6 for 3 traps, 5 and 4, 2 traps, 3 gens, 1 trap. Add-ons will probably allow you to add an extra trap in and then do other things. So yeah, even thinking that way still makes sense. Okay, well implemented. Even me, and I like to harp about small things. You can only really find one thing that's not just harping over the things that I usually harp over, like, well, how long does it take to deploy trap? Things like that. There's no need for that here. It's explained enough to where people can get a gist of it. Yeah, the traps just need some sort of weakness added into them that survivors, well, not weakness, but a counter added into them that survivors can act on. Trap wise is perfect. 8 seconds. Hmm. 8 seconds for a caught survivor that's within tear radius. The 8 seconds is good if you're running like distressing or something like that. It allows you time to get to where you need to be. But the traps only activate when you're in tear radius. So should you get extra time, I'm also thinking about add-on wise. One of the add-ons should obviously be something around adding time the survivors are going to be trapped. So, based off of that, you might want to bump these down a second or two based off the fact that if there are add-ons added in that extend time, which generally you'll get two, so you're going to be looking at like an upwards of 10 seconds, maybe even more, depending on if how add-ons are going to be implemented. And 10 seconds to when somebody's in your tear radius is basically a free hit. And even if there's another survivor there, it's still going to take a good 5 seconds to get them out. Which, even with distressing or anything like that, that's a lot of distance. You can go, what? Killer's 4.6 meters per second. We're talking over 5 seconds. They can move well over 20 meters. Well over. During that time. And then 8 seconds. They can move, well, their entire tear radius and some. Because you'll do the 4 times 8, and you still have the 0.6 times 8, which is another, like, ridiculous amount. So the movement that the killer can actually do, especially if you add any type of speed or anything like that on top of that, can actually end up insane. If you're running distressing or something like that, it gives you time to get to them. And I think that if a killer does run distressing to try to get that extra tear radius, they should be punished some. It shouldn't be impossible for them to get there. But I mean, if they run distressing, they should have to run an add-on with distressing to be able to get there. Now, I don't know the particular distances and times and things like that, so this will be public test beta. It'll have to be tested there. But yeah, if you increase your tear radius, you should have to run some sort of add-on to compensate for that. So that's a lot of balancing that's going to have to be done. Can't be balanced with words. Which, I mean, as far as I know, it might be balanced perfectly as is. I'm not going to take the time to pull that apart unless I was able to move said killer itself or design it or something like that. Which, I mean, I guess I do know people that have the SFM engine and could actually make models and design everything. But that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of their, well, yeah, a lot of their time. Which then, something as big as this is probably going to require compensation. So nobody likes doing that for free unless they're really interested in it. The liquefaction. Most of the things I said earlier during the phase guys things, the things that I wanted to see incorporated. Because if you're going to pass through something, I think that, well, since like I said, it's solid matter, it should take some amount of time. It should be quicker than vaulting or breaking or anything like that. But it should take a little bit of time to actually go through a particular object. So some of the things that I said earlier, due to the phaser that I went over, should apply particularly here as well. I like the passing through window and all of that. Survivors going through a soap pallet or window or something like that, screaming. Completely fine. Soap pallets destroyed after survivor vault, fine. the windows being blocked after a bolt for 16 seconds is brutal. Absolutely brutal. But I mean, cooldown. They're losing 16 seconds of window, you're losing 30 seconds of power. So I mean, it's kind of tit for tat there. Since this killer is based off of trapping survivors and loot manipulation, it makes sense. But any type of fine tuning again would have to be through public test beta. But I definitely try to see what you can do with this particular concept. Even if this is the final and how you want to leave things, I would write it again. See, all the different methods, all the different angles you can approach this. You might find something better. You might not. But you never know. Perk wise, you create one fake generator. When generator is completed, survivor's screen generator disappears. Well, one, if the generator, or if there isn't a generator with any progress, then the bonus is lost. I think the 25% should just be thrown to a random generator as progress. Because most likely somebody that's running this perk's also going to be running Ruin or something like that, so that 15% will be 8 back up very quickly. Only problem that I generally have is, well, 25% progress to a generator is 20 seconds. Survivors are wasting 80 seconds and then being refunded only 20 seconds of that. That's gonna be a lot of rage quits and a lot of anger that's built up about it. Especially because, oh well, I mean, the obvious, you just waste an entire minute. Doing gens is not necessarily the funnest part in Dead by Daylight, and having to do an extra 60 seconds on top of everything, it's gonna suck. And if multiple survivors are working on that particular fake generator, that's stacking 60 seconds of wasted time. Well, let's stack 80 seconds of wasted time, and they're only being refunded one singular instance of 20 seconds. I personally believe that fake generators should be repaired faster, but they shouldn't know that it's being repaired faster. So instead of taking 80 seconds, it should take like 60 seconds. So it's still fairly long, and it seems like it's the same amount of time. However, they're actually saving 20 seconds. Then when the generator disappears, I think they should be refunded an extra 20 seconds. And you can easily make this look the same by either shortening the bar or even lengthening the bar. Either way. Or just completely hiding the bar. And just make it one of the passives of the killer so they don't even know how much progress is in it. You can do a whole bunch of other different methods to move the survivor's attention away from it. You can make more skill checks happen. to keep their eyes off of that particular generator's progress and be like, man, this seems to be going a little bit quicker. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it is only 20 seconds worth of progress that's going to be off of the particular generator. You can make it, the bar increase like normal, but it just randomly stops at 60 seconds and doesn't go all the way to the end. You can do it that way, to where it's not noticeable at all. It just acts like it's going up. As soon as it hits that 60 seconds, boom, it completes randomly. And then another generator's rewarded with 20 seconds of progress. That way, you're essentially saving or getting refunded. We're getting refunded 20 seconds and you're saving 20 seconds. So in total, you're getting about a 50%. I guess minus 50% efficiency overall. And it's not as terrible than just being refunded 20 seconds and having to spend 80 seconds on a generator. So, I mean, the merits of it, hey, you save 20 seconds, so that's another 20 seconds you can put towards another generator. And hey, you got refunded for even doing this. And it's not like it's a stacking bonus either. So, I mean, the 20 seconds that they're putting in isn't going to necessarily go to the 20 seconds on a generator that's the most completed. Now, in essence, that generator that's most completed is going to have more than 20 seconds left on it. That's the second thing that I want to point out. If, let's say, beginning of the game, survivors jump on different generators, you know, the usual strats. If generally you'll either get 2 gens popped or 3 gens popped. Let's say you're playing with new survivors and you get 2 gens popped. If the first gen was the, I'll just say fake generator here, by the time you finish that fake generator at 80 seconds, the other generator that they're working on is going to be a couple of seconds behind, and they're only getting like 5 seconds of value, but they're losing the entire 80 seconds. So if you make it 60 seconds, by the time the fake generator finishes, it'll give you extra 20 seconds and they'll get full value on the second generator, saving essentially 20 seconds off of that generator, but they're losing an entire other generator's worth of progress. So they'll have one generator done fairly quick and be a little bit behind, but not absolutely devastatingly behind with no value, being the ghost generator giving them an extra 5 seconds. So I would make that possibly 60-second generator, have it, you know, scale up like every other generator so they don't know. Then at 60 seconds, boom, it procs. It finishes the other generator that they're working on. There's value out of it. Because what I see happening most often, or at least in very unfortunate situations, is 2 or 3 gens, you have people working on them, and it just snapping through and giving somebody like 5 seconds worth of progress and then losing 80 overall. You're going to have a lot of angry people. A lot of them. But that can be minimized. It's not going to go away, but it'll minimize it if you do the 60-second thing and just make it look like it's scaling to 80. In any case, I had to pause the video for a few minutes, so I will be late in the chat. That's fine. Absolutely fine. So when you do catch up, I would like to know your thoughts on that particular ghost gen situation being balanced to actually provide value to survivors as opposed to making it the same amount of time. Um, Besides that, and well, if there isn't any other generated progress, the bonus is lost. I think that should just be given to a random generator. So as I said, most people run Ruin. It's going to be 8 back up, or at least a majority of it is. The only time I would complain about that is if, there's 2 gens left, and you have a good 3 gen or something like that. Like the last gen shouldn't be affected, or when there's 1 gen left, the entire, whatchamacallit should deactivate. So you don't have that, them getting a possible scale and or saving that generator for last and essentially using it to boost another generator up. Because I mean, still, it has the positive effects of wasting survivor time, but when it comes to 3 gen situations, that's 4 gens now that you have to contend with. One of these gens might be fake, but if they complete it, that's 20% automatically shoved into the generator that's the furthest completed. That's going to create problems, and the perk's going to work against you in those rare cases that you have 3 gens. So, to prevent that, some sort of end game something is going to have to be put in. Maybe, like I said, just deactivating it when 1 gen's remaining or something like that. Or you can leave it as it is and it'll just be unique. Detrimental to survivors at the beginning, somewhat helpful to survivors towards the end. If you got a Bubba that's chainsawing everything and people are slowly putting in gen progress here or there, and then they do the ghost generator cross map and bang, it instantly completes, nobody has to go near it, that Bubba's in trouble. Or you can keep it killer balanced and just deactivate the perk or have some other type of effects or anything as part of that. After hooking 4 different survivors, Toxin activates. You will injure a survivor with your basic attack. You will put him additionally in a deep wound state. Cooldown 30 seconds. Let me look something up right quick. Alright, didn't think so. So there are no perks that allow you to put a survivor into a deep wound state. So you balanced it with having to hook 4 different survivors. Almost like the artist. Well, I mean, it is kind of like the artist, but different. I like the balance. You have to hook 4 different survivors, which frowns upon tunneling. Afterwards, you get the ability to deep wound state every first hit. I think I like it. Because you do have to essentially find every single survivor and then hook them. It's not very easy to find all 4 different survivors. I mean, you can get it done. But I mean, if a survivor don't want to be found, you ain't gonna find them. They'll just lock or hop and do all kinds of craziness, shenanigans, or hide in the dumbest places that you don't have time to check. So I like it. 4 different survivors to get it, and then afterwards you can apply deep wound with all the healing tech available, with med kits and syringes and circle of healing and everything else. I can agree with that. I was gonna originally say something about the cooldown needing to be upped a little bit, but actually I think for the most part it's fine. Because if you're in a chase with a kill or with a survivor, 30 seconds is roundabouts the amount of time it'll take to down the survivor, and you're essentially just making it to where they can't heal unless they escape you. I think that's alright. In essence, hooking 4 different survivors ain't gonna happen till about mid to end game anyway, so I like this. This also, I don't want to say prevents, but it shies away from somebody running NOAD with it too. So this is as better usability wise than NOAD, because well, NOAD you have to be essentially losing the game in some aspect, or having survivors escape, or at least attempt to escape, to have NOAD activate. Where this, you're rewarded for better play. So I could, yeah, I like it. I can agree with that. Survivor perks. Playing with shark jaws. When you gain the exposed status effect, you can see the aura of the killer for 7 seconds. When you are under an exposed status effect, the killer can't reveal your aura. Well, just off the bat, I would make the high end of this 4 seconds. Because I mean, that much is just generally fair. It's kind of like a pseudo barbecue and chili, but you know, killer's gonna be somewhat near you because they're gonna be either stalking you or you get hit with the haunted grounds or something like that. 4 seconds seems to be the roundabout fairness of all types of aura reading and things like that that are instantaneous. Now I know like Ghostface has like I'm all ears, which gives you like 6 seconds, but that's something that a survivor applies to themselves by doing rushed actions by Ghostface. It's a penalty for that. When you are under an exposed status effect, the killer can't reveal your aura. When you're under an exposed status effect, killer can't reveal your aura. I think there needs to be a time limit popped on that, so somebody running like haunted grounds or something like that can at least get some value out of it. That or make this particular perk can only be used X amount of times per game. Because, I mean, it counteracts Starstruck, technically. Because if you're behind a wall and you get Starstruck, you'll be able to see the direction the killer's heading off to. Haunted grounds, or heck, anything that applies Disposing's Dead as effect. It counters Ghostface, it counters Michael Myers, it counters a whole bunch of different things. It counters NOAD, which I don't think does NOAD particularly count or give you the exposed status effect. I think it does. As soon as it activates, that's when everybody gets the exposed status effect. And then it just stays. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. As soon as it activates, boom, it says no one escapes death and everybody's given the exposed. My brain's telling me no, that's not how it happens. You just kind of get the exposed as you're getting hit, but I think it just comes in when it activates. And if it does, anytime no one activates, you'll be able to see the killer's aura, which kind of blows that out of proportion, or blows that perk up as well. It's actually a lot of interesting situations that particular perk counters. So yeah, I would limit it to X number of uses, or make it to where you have to get tokens by doing something per particular use of this perk. And I would drop that to 4 seconds as opposed to 7 on the high end. But yeah, as it sits now, I would deem that too OP, and it needs to have something else attached to it. Also, there's a boon totem? No, it's not a boon totem, it's a perk of some sort that prevents killer from reading your aura. Now, I'm pretty sure. If I just type in prevents, no. What if I type in aura? 179. Okay, how about can't? Can't. Interesting. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be thinking about another review I did. I'm pretty sure that there was a perk that they added in, though, that prevents killer from reading your aura. DVD perks prevents killer from reading your aura. Might be PTB or something. I could swear. Is it distortion? I was playing PTB. I know I ran across the perk that allowed you to not, or allowed killer to not be able to see your aura. It was hooked to something. Because it consumed a token and then prevented killer from reading your aura for that time. I don't know. I've done so many reviews, base game, meta game, creative game. It's all bleeding together. I don't know. If there is another perk, the killer can't reveal your aura, and that's all that it does, and it has no type of passive, then I mean it's kind of the usual thing of that being the perk and then that being added. So I like the when you gain exposed status effect, you can see the aura of killer. Said I'd bump that down to like 4 seconds though, because you just generally need to know which direction the killer's going at. You don't need to know the specifics, especially if he's nearby. You just need to know that they're heading towards you. You don't need to know the quite direction of which way around the wall they're coming. Challenge seeker, 100% skill check challenge or trigger chances. I don't know how skill check triggers work. So increasing trigger chances of skill check by 100%, I don't know. How I think it works just from playing the game is every X amount of seconds, it basically flips a coin, and then skill check happens if it strikes good, which is how you can get multiple skill checks in a row, etc., etc. But if it goes by ticks and you have a 100% chance, you could potentially just keep getting skill check after skill check after skill check after skill check. I don't know. I've never done research on this, so I don't have a 100% answer on this. But I mean, there are things that increase skill check chances in base game, and they don't seem to be too terribly difficult. You still only get them every once in a while. I mean, I've had it to where I've gotten a lot of skill checks back to back to back to back to back to back, which generally makes me wonder, making it the chance to trigger skill checks 100% more, what would happen. But I mean, if the base skill check triggers chance is only, I don't know, let's say 3%, and you increase it by 100%, you're increasing from 3% to 6%. So, I don't know. And then I said earlier, you can get away with making that 10%, 25%, and it'd be just fine. Breathing training. Breathing noises reduced by 100%. So when you're running and things like that, you'll no longer make breathing noises. However, footsteps will be heard. Breathing noises, the only thing that uses those are Nurse and Spirit. Strider comes in very, very, very handy when it comes to that. So the breathing noises straight nerfs to Nurse and Spirit. The grunts of pain, everybody with good headphones use those. And I'd hate to admit it, but it doesn't matter how much you actually decrease grunts of pain. If it isn't 100%, headphone users can actually hear that regardless. So the only people you're actually affecting with this is console players that don't have their sound turned up or don't use headphones of any sort. So that's hard nerfing console players or anybody that uses just speakers. But I don't know why you wouldn't have any type of headphones or headset if you're on PC. But there are some people that are just straight speakers, but I mean, they probably have them blasting anyway, so never know. You are kind of taken away from No Mither and Iron Will and things like that. As the breathing noises are kind of negligible until you're facing either Nurse or Spirit. Then you might want to have that. Grunts of pain. No Mither essentially does both of these, but you are trading an injured state. While this just gets rid of the ability to heal, the extra blood points, and all of that. It's almost like a nerfed No Mither. You take out the huge negatives, but you take out the huge positive of being able to get back up. I would, on that particular breathing training, I would reincorporate the same system but in a unique way. So instead of saying, breathing noises are reduced by 100% or something like that, and grunts of pain are reduced by 50%, you could just straight up do just a sound reduction in general by a specific amount, which covers all sounds, breathing, running, grunts of pain, all of that, and then just give it a general stat. Then to go into further detail. Of course, it's going to be all noises, then you're going to have to add some other things to, I don't want to say fluff it, because fluff isn't the right word, but to make the perk usable. But the breathing noises and things like that being taken apart is essentially no mither, but with all the gunk taken out of it. Or you can say it's iron willed mixed with something that reduces noises. Like I said, the breathing noises are kind of neglectable or negligible because I don't know anybody who actually goes by those except for Spirit and Nurse. So it's kind of a counter to them, but the grunts of pain is where the bread and butter is. And I guess those of you that's cool. DBDBDBD. Perks. For those of you who are new or don't run no mither, excuse me. You suffer from the broken status effect the entire trial. I still believe that here you shouldn't be broken and have to deal with this until you're hit for the first time. I think it should activate like no-ed on hit, no mither, then activates, boom, and then all of this starts to come. So you can at least have an initial 2 hits before you go down. The whole point of no mither is equal to not being bothered by things that have happened. You're kind of shrugging them off. They're not annoying you or anything like that. To be mithered by something is being annoyed or negatively affected or bothered. So no mither is not being bothered. So when you're first walking around at the beginning of the trial, you should have nothing wrong with you until you're hit for the first time. Then bam, no mither should activate. One, it doesn't, like, me personally, if I see somebody run no mither, that's essentially them saying, hey, I want to play hard mode. I have no challenge today by Dead by Daylight. Or, hey, I'm with a troll team. Target me because we're going to ruin your life. Anytime I've ran into somebody playing no mither, generally they're with an SWF. And there's with, just a whole bunch of blatantly toxic survivors. So the first thing I do is I make sure I'm completely stealthy and I find the guy and I immediately take him down and hook them. Because I don't want to play with a bunch of toxic survivors. I know they're toxic because all 3 of them will come out of the woodworks to try and save this guy. This is one of the times you will see me face camping. Is I'll hook and then I'll look around. If I see 3 survivors immediately swarming me with flashlights and everything else from the woodworks, then I know I'm gonna stay here and I'm gonna face camp this guy. Anybody that tries to pick him up, I'm going to immediately pick them up, activating Starstruck, and then I'm just gonna continue to down every single one of them as they try to go for this unhook. And no, they're not going to get him off of that hook because I know you guys are trying to be toxic because you're not doing generators. If I down a no mither guy and I hook them and nobody really shows up and he's just wanting to play hard mode, cool. I'll note that I hooked him one time and I'll go about doing my things and won't worry about it. So you got to determine whether or not, somebody running no mither is with a toxic team, which you could usually tell by the rate at which they join, the symbols above their heads, the things that they're all running, etc., etc. A lot of toxic survivor teams like the quick switch the last couple of seconds of a game too, so you have to watch out for that too. If you get quick switches, then you know what's coming. Be prepared. Go for the weakest link, because they're going to try and protect that no mother guy with their life. When you knock down, don't go for instant pickups, things like that. But let's get back to topic. So no mither, grunts of pain are reduced by 75%. Grunts of pain are reduced by 50%. You stay broken, pools of blood are suppressed, recovery speed, dying state, and all of that. The problem I have here is you're taking the grunts of pain being reduced by 75% by no mither and you're dropping it to 50. For those of you who don't know, no mither wasn't originally at 75%. It's actually lower by base. They just recently buffed no mither to make it better. So you essentially have the old no mither, grunts of pain being reduced by 50%. Then added something to this, the breathing noise being reduced by 100%, and created a perk out of that. So this particular perk in general, I would recommend relooking and maybe doing something else different with it, since there are similar perks that are potentially suffering from that. But like I also said, breathing noises really aren't, they're really negligible. Unless you're facing a spirit or nurse, you don't have to worry about breathing noises for the most part, and you would just run Iron Will for that. Or even Calm Spirit. Now I think Calm Spirit changed, it's just for birds now. Lower grunts of pain by 100%. And then you have Calm Spirit. Yeah, Calm Spirit just suppresses the urge to scream from pain. Which, I mean, is nice. It keeps you from screaming. It works extremely well on Doctor. For those of you who didn't know, if you know you're going up against a doctor, or you just have bad luck of getting doctors back to back to back to back, or anybody that makes you scream, running Calm Spirit prevents you from screaming. And then you don't alert nearby crows, so there's that as well. Alright. um Alright. Or maybe it could end at a certain progress time. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I did mention that later on. It ending at like 60 seconds instead of 80 seconds on the ghost generator. Yes, sir. Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of likes a bit of your perks and ideas that I actually like. When I was making this perk, I read how skill checks work in Wiki. But there you go. Then I trust you, and I assumed you balanced it per skill checks. I unfortunately can't give any type of opinion over something that I don't necessarily know. So yeah, if you did the research on it, I'll trust you. I might do it one day if a killer that just relies solely on skill checks pop up. Then I might have to go and do research. But until then, I'll give you the thumbs up. And then in the future, when there's something I don't understand, I'm gonna come running to you every time. Say, hey man, this guy's gone harping about skill checks. I need you to be a like special guest to the stream or something. But honestly, that's kind of what I want to work towards. Besides getting the alternative killer pushed out in that particular system, that's kind of like the pseudo primary goal. Secondary goal, I would like to get a council. I guess a council is wrong. Like a board. I don't know. A group of people in a Discord. And as we go over each individual things, I want somebody like myself that's neutral that can see both sides. I want somebody that's killer sided. I want somebody that's survivor sided. And then I want somebody who's just there that likes to comment, that knows what they're talking about and just likes to comment about particular things, and whether he likes this or he likes that or something like that. Somebody very opinionated. And I just want this board to get together and have a more of an adult debate about specific things. Because if I say like, this perk don't seem balanced, and the killer's like, well, it is balanced because survivors can do that, that, and that. I would like to see the killer-sided opinion, so I can go ahead and squash that now, or even listen to what they're saying if there's something that I forgot. Because there's a lot of cases where I see killer mains and survivor mains disagreeing on something, and they both just be wrong. Like, oh, well, survivors don't need another dead horde, or killers don't need another way to expose us. But then I look at the thing and I'm like, you're both wrong. It has nothing to do with that. It's this. And people will be like, oh, and it's like, yeah. If you start off biased, your opinions, your thoughts, all of that are going to be biased. Your brain will literally shut down and selectively read everything that you go through when you're biased. And if you're mad at something, like you just got off the game and you're inherently angry at something, your brain is going to naturally think about things. It's going to heighten things. Everything that happens, that this thing that you hate right now, is going to seem bad to you. Oh, they gave 100k blood points? Oh, those cheap bastards. They could have gave us 200,000, things like that. But, yeah. Never try to explain something while you're angry. You're probably going to end up being biased. And never ask for support from people around you, because that essentially is called confirmation bias, and that generally is proof that you're actually full of crap. Especially if people just nod your head. Oni won't get his power immediately against No Mither. There you go. I didn't know No Mither stopped orbs from coming out of you. That's actually a huge counter. No. Orbs still come out of you. I understand what you're saying, so Oni can't just follow the No Mither guy around and get orbs. I need a new chair though. My chair, which you hear squeaking all the time, the actual leg is starting to separate from the chair. I fixed it once by screwing screws into it, but now the holes are starting to widen. Which, when you hear the chair squeaking and all of that, it's me generally trying to push the chair back together. Or just repositioning myself sometimes. Because, well, awkward angles. It likes to slide or move or something, and then my back starts hurting because I'm not sitting straight. Anyway, yeah. That's one of the main changes that I wanted to see the No Mither, is that you stay perfectly healthy until you're hit the first time. I don't think it's fair, even though it's considered the hard mode, I don't think it's fair to start a game injured under really any sense of circumstances, unless you have like just the utmost amazing perk in the world. And once you get hit, boom, no mither activates like no ad or anything else. Understandable. Now you stay broken the entire match, you know. But I've personally brought that matter to behavior, and I've never received any email or anything back. I mean, I got a confirmation email saying, "Yeah, we received your thing," you know, the old generic stuff. But oh, they also pointed me to the forum, but no, I don't think any changes like that's gonna happen in No Mither. Veteran or higher ranked players see it, like I said, as a hard mode, and they don't want to change it. They've even made comments publicly saying, you know, we know No Mither's a hard mode. We don't have any plans of changing it or anything like that. So, yeah. Players have actually done that to themselves by treating a. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Treating a subpar perk, very, very below par perk, which should be a lot better by design. Like a meme. They like memes, they go with memes, and that's what it's become. So yes, we are around 2.5 hours, and I think that is fairly good for the day. All in all, I do like the concept, and now the effort that you've put into it. There's a couple minor things that I pointed out, but they're not like, oh my god type thing. Last of Us. We got more ideas coming in. Let's go. People are just slow today. Turkey season. They gotta prepare for things. I mean, there's a couple of posts. I finally made it back onto page 1, so I'm caught up for the most part. There are some things like the giant spider killer that's been there forever, and then the new perk ideas that pop up every once in a while. Honestly, though, the new perk idea, I wish they would go back down, and I think it was actually your post, Galanotum, that you posted for perk ideas. And I wish they would just put general perk ideas into one particular category or one post, as opposed to placing them separately. Because what's going to happen is, if nobody sees this before somebody else posts and it goes down to the lower half, it'll probably never be seen. As opposed to everybody just keeping a particular thread going and it just being added with more and more and more and more perks. Also, this is open. I don't know why he would post just a new perk idea when this is back open. It's kind of weird. So even beyond that, in the original perk idea, they have this, the community challenge. You can throw all of that in there. They'll go through, look at everything. Then there's other posts that have a bunch of perks jammed in with them. I mean, there's plenty of chances and plenty of spots to where this person could have posted their information. I mean, I'm glad that they posted a perk, but consolidation, man. Anyway, I think I've said my part for the most part here. The main thing is I wanted to cover your particular concept, Galanotum, because you told me you've been working on something and you finished it, so I figured I'd give you the proper respect and cover it as quick as I can. Was gonna do it yesterday, but things happen. A lot of things happen. And then I had to give another lecture. Psychology wise, I do psychology lectures, is what I tell people. It's the shorthand version of things. It's actually pretty fun. I have a set things because I mean I've went through college for being a diesel mechanic, went through college for psychology. I've learned a whole bunch of different things from different places, a whole bunch of different jobs, things like that. And on top of the education, I have certifications and all of that, which I had to go back through and get. Essentially, do the same things again, which I mean didn't take very long to get certifications. I have over 25 certifications, and with those certifications, I'm able to give lectures based off of them. And they cover just a whole bunch of different things from, emotional behavior to Sigmund Freud to mood disorders to even adult and child care, things like that. And how to properly raise your child, which a lot of people don't look up any type of guides or reading material. They either consult friends or Facebook, or they just do a very quick Google and find themselves in a forum asking random people that don't even know what type of lifestyle or what you're reading, where you're, how you're living, etc., etc. When there are certified websites, books, and everything else that can actually help to answer your questions. There are people you can talk to raise your children when you don't understand. For anybody listening, if you ever have a problem about your particular child, don't feel embarrassed to actually seek professional help. Stop asking people around you, because most people around you are, well, most parents, and they will literally straight up say with 100% confidence that their parenting style is to basically go with the flow and learn. And the most disgusting, repulsive, just CPS should take your child statement that I always hear is, well, the first child was an experiment, and then the second child, when we finally figured out what to do, we then, started getting things together. Your first child should not be an experiment. Your first child is not there for you to take a LARP on or anything like that. If you weren't ready to have children, don't have children. If you don't know what to do and you're not smart enough or mature enough to seek actual professional help and not just some dumb things that another person that experimented with their children did, you're ruining your child's life. The first child whose parents had experiments and things on them that didn't know how to properly raise a child, you've ruined that child's life. You've deprived them of everything that they could have had. Then you have the guilt factor of the second child always essentially is being raised better. They have more strict things happening and all that because the first child dictates how the second child's treated. But the first child's also going to be treated better because parents have that inherent guilt that they've deprived them. They might not initially realize this, but that's why most parents favor the first child over the second child. The first child was the learning experience, the experiment, the things that are, pushed upon them. They have all the opportunities, things like that. That's how they're going to find out about their particular children. So anything that the first child tries to do, they're going to be supportive on. That's number one child, that's the first one. They're going to, use that extra money that they have at the time to push things through. So the first child's either going to have everything or the first child's going to inherently fail because, as I said, it's an experiment. Success chances are very low if you don't know what you're doing, by the way. It's why we have more and more messed up people nowadays because the first childs are essentially neglected their entire life. Then the second child's treated like the first child. The mistakes the first child made, they just already assume it's going to happen through the second child, so they try to squish everything before it starts. Second child is generally deprived. They are deprived because they are not able to make those particular mistakes because the parents already seen it before and they try to squash it all before it happens. They don't have that ability to develop fully, etc., etc. I'm not going to go deep into that, but that's just sort of the type of lectures that I make, if anybody is interested. That's where things go. I start off simple and then I just expand and expand and expand. All of this is true. All of this can be looked up if you don't believe what I'm saying, etc., etc. Everything that I'm saying isn't based off of opinion except for the fact that the first child's experiment, that's disgusting. That is my personal opinion. Well, that's also one of the highly regarded opinions of the psychological community. We find that extremely disgusting when you're experimenting with your children like that. It shouldn't happen. Every child should have the same opportunities, but that's not how it happens, at least not in America. But anybody want to know about lecture wise, that's just a small little piece about it. Some courses or lectures I do for free, others are paid ones, and I go way more into depth about things. As of now, I'm not going to say where everything available is, at least not on YouTube, for the sole purpose of, well, Zoom bombing and trolls and things like that. People on the internet look for ways to alleviate boredom, not necessarily learn something. So I'm not going to be releasing any information about that as of now. Right now, I'm living a very happy life. Able to teach things to new people. Some people are very enlightened about what I say. Some people are just like, whatever. And then they go about their lives making the same mistakes over and over. Say, like the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink from it. Some horses are dumb and just want to drink the muddy water along the trail that all the other horses stepped into. And then ask themselves, why does this water taste so bad? It's just how things are. But enough rambling. That was just kind of an extra PS by Q. Thank you everybody for stopping by. And like always, supplement your lifestyle.